Okay, so get this. You sent us some links about 8D music, and it's been making the rounds online.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, 8 dimensions? Really? But then I put on my headphones and
That's pretty wild.
yeah, it's like the sound is swirling all around me.
It's definitely more than just left and right.
Right. Way more than just your average stereo experience.
That's because it's designed to take advantage of how our brains naturally pinpoint sound.
So let's give our listeners a little taste of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Remember that Dilbar song from the YouTube link you sent?
Uh-huh.
Let's play a quick snippet of that in AD.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I'm hearing that, and I can't help but think, how does this even work?
Right.
It's like the music is doing loop-de-loops inside my skull.
It's pretty clever, actually.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, it all comes down to mimicking something called the head-related transfer function.
Okay.
Or HRTF for short.
HRTF.
Yeah, it sounds super technical,
It does.
but think of it this way. Imagine you're wearing a pair of glasses that change how you see depending on where you look.
Okay.
Turn your head left, the view shifts one way. Turn right, it shifts another.
I gotcha.
HRTF is kind of like that, but for your ears.
Oh, interesting.
It measures how sound changes based on where it's coming from and the shape of your head and ears.
So like a sonic fingerprint for how my ears hear the world.
Exactly. And 8D music uses algorithms to recreate that effect digitally.
Hold on, algorithms. So there's some serious tech behind this trippy sound.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what's actually happening?
Basically, the music is processed in a way that tricks your brain into thinking that sounds are coming from very specific locations in 3D space, even though you're listening through headphones.
Okay, but can you give me like a real world example?
Sure.
Like how would this sound like with something we all know, like that gunshot in Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody?
Okay, so in a regular stereo mix, that gunshot would pan from left to right.
Right, pretty standard.
Yeah, but if they'd used AD techniques,
Yeah, what would happen?
it would be like the bullet whizzed past your head, moving through space around you.
Whoa. Okay, now that would be something else.
Right.
Totally, a completely different level of immersion.
And that's what's so fascinating about this technology.
Yeah.
It's not just about music.
What else?
It has huge potential in areas like video games and virtual reality, where realistic sound is super important for truly believable experiences.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just a cool sonic gimmick.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This could change how we experience all kinds of things.
Absolutely. And what's even more interesting is that right now, most AD music uses a kind of average HRTF profile.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but imagine if we could personalize it. Scan your head, map your ears, and create a custom HRTF profile just for you.
Hold up, you're saying we could have AD audio that's like tailored to our own ears?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and the technology to do that isn't as far off as you might think.
You know, that reminds me of something Jaime Altozano was doing in that YouTube video you saw.
Oh, yeah.
He was actually creating his own AD music using some software called Resonance Audio.
That's right. He even made an 8D version of his Flat Earth Society trap song, which was pretty cool.
It was, and it seems like even someone like me who's not a sound engineer at all could play around with this stuff.
For sure, you don't have to be an expert.
But this is where I think we need to get a little careful.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because as Altozano pointed out, there's a lot of so-called AD music out there that's really just simple panning tricks.
Right.
So not all AD is created equal.
Unfortunately, no.
So how can our listeners tell the difference?
Well, it's important to look for examples that are genuinely using those 3D audio techniques we talked about, like the ones Altozano links to in his video description.
Okay, that's really helpful.
Yeah, we'll make sure to include those links for everyone.
Perfect. So before we all go on a 8D music binge,
Right.
let's talk about what this all means for the future of sound.
Okay.
We've touched on gaming and VR, but where else could this tech take us? And are there any downsides we should be thinking about?
Those are great questions, and they lead us to some really fascinating possibilities. So let's dive into that next.
Sounds good to me. So we were talking about the implications of 8D audio.
Right.
And how it could change how we experience things beyond just like listening to music for fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's cool to listen to AD music,
Uh-huh.
but it seems like it could be so much more than that.
Absolutely.
So give me some examples. Like what are we talking about here?
Well, think about education, for example.
Okay.
Like imagine you're learning a new language.
Okay.
And instead of just listening to audio recordings, you could use 8D audio to make it feel like the speaker is right there next to
Oh,
you.
that would be so cool.
Right.
Yeah, it'd almost be like having a personal tutor whispering in your ear.
Exactly. And it's not just language learning. 8D audio could also be used to create immersive historical reenactments
Oh, wow.
or to make scientific lectures more engaging.
So anything where sound is important
Right.
could be revolutionized by AD.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's amazing.
And then there's therapy, too.
Oh, yeah, we touched on that a little bit before.
Yeah, so imagine using 8D audio to create like really calming soundscapes
Okay.
for people who are struggling with anxiety or insomnia.
That makes total sense.
Right,
Yeah, it'd be like having your own personal sonic oasis you could access anytime.
exactly. And it could even be used to help people process trauma.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
by creating these controlled environments where they can gradually confront their fears.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting.
It is.
So you've got education therapy, what else? You mentioned everyday communication earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah. Think about how we use video conferencing and phone calls now.
Oh.
With 8D audio, we can make it feel like the person you're talking to is actually in the room with you.
That would definitely make those long Zoom meetings a little more bearable.
For sure, it would make them feel way less impersonal.
Totally. And it could also help people who are hard of hearing, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
How so?
Well, because you can really manipulate the way sound is delivered with AD.
It could help people with hearing impairments to better understand speech
Oh, wow.
or focus on specific sounds in a noisy environment.
That's incredible. So it really seems like the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it's really exciting technology.
But I know you're going to say it, so I'm going to say it. We have to talk about the potential downsides, too.
Yeah, you're right. We do.
You can't all be sunshine and roses.
It's important to be aware of the ethical considerations.
Okay, so what are some of the things we should be worried about?
Well, one concern is that this technology could be misused.
Okay, in what way?
As it becomes more sophisticated, it could be used to create really convincing audio deepfakes.
You mean like fake recordings of someone saying something they never actually said?
Exactly.
And those are already a problem without AD.
Right.
But with AD, they could be even more convincing.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because they would sound like the person is right there in the room with you.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's not hard to imagine how that could be used to spread misinformation or damage someone's reputation.
Exactly. It's a big concern, and then there's also the issue of potential manipulation.
Okay, so how could AD be used to manipulate people?
Well, remember how we talked about how 8D can create these really immersive and personalized experiences? Well, that same level of immersion could be used to influence people's emotions and behaviors in ways they're not even aware of.
Okay, so like subliminal messaging or something.
It could be something like that, yeah.
It's a little creepy when you put it that way.
I know, it's kind of unsettling.
So like imagine advertising that's so personalized and immersive
Right.
that it just bypasses our conscious decision-making and makes us more likely to buy a product.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can see how that could be a problem.
It takes all of the ethical concerns we already have about targeted advertising to a whole other level.
Absolutely. And then there's the question of accessibility, too.
Right.
Like if personalized AD audio requires expensive equipment
Mm-hmm.
or is really difficult to set up,
Yeah.
it could create a digital divide where only certain people can access these enhanced experiences.
Exactly. That's a really important point. We need to make sure this technology benefits everyone.
Not just the people who can afford it.
Exactly. So while 8D audio has this incredible potential, we need to develop it responsibly.
And be mindful of all these ethical considerations.
Right from the very beginning.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got a lot to think about here.
We do.
AD audio is this really amazing technology that could change so much about our lives.
Yeah.
But we need to be aware of the risks, too.
Absolutely.
It's all about finding that balance like we were talking about before.
Right, that balance between innovation and responsibility.
Exactly.
Oh.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's remember that AD audio is also just a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's so much cool AD music out there right now that people can check out.
Absolutely.
So listener, if you haven't already, I highly recommend giving it a try and seeing what all the hype is about.
It's a great way to experience firsthand what this technology can do.
It really is like hacking your own perception with music. And who knows what other sensory experiences we'll be able to manipulate in the future.
It's a really fascinating area to think about.
So now that we've explored the present of AD audio, let's shift gears and talk about what this all means for the future of sound
Okay.
and how 8D audio could shape our relationship with reality itself. Okay, so we've come a long way on our exploration of AD audio,
We have.
from the science behind it to all the potential ways it could impact our lives.
Right.
It's really got me thinking about the future of sound and how this is all going to change how we experience the world around us.
It's a fascinating topic to think about.
Yeah, so you know how we've been talking about how 8D audio can make these virtual experiences feel more real?
Uh-huh.
What happens when those virtual experiences become so real, so immersive,
Right.
that they start to rival real-life experiences?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, like what if you go to a concert from your living room
Yeah.
and feel like you're actually there in the mosh pit?
Right. Or have a business meeting where it feels like everyone's sitting around the same table, even though you're miles apart.
Exactly. It's like all those sci-fi movies where people are plugging into these virtual realities
Right.
and they're kind of escaping from the real world.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what happens to our sense of community,
Yeah.
our sense of shared experience when we can create these perfect little virtual worlds for ourselves.
That's a good point because on the one hand, it's really exciting, right?
Yeah,
Like the potential for connection, for accessibility is huge.
absolutely.
But then on the other hand, it's also kind of unsettling
Yeah.
to think about the possibility that people might just become so engrossed in these virtual experiences
Right.
that they lose touch with what's actually happening around them.
It's definitely a double-edged sword.
For sure. And I think like with a lot of new technologies, it's going to be about finding that balance
Yeah.
between embracing the possibilities and being mindful of the potential downsides.
Exactly. Well said.
So as AT audio keeps developing,
Yeah.
it's really going to be up to us to decide how we want to use it and how we want to integrate it into our lives.
Yeah, we have the power to shape how this technology evolves.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to you, listener.
Right.
We've explored AD audio from a lot of different angles today.
Yeah. Hopefully we've given you a good overview.
But now we really want to hear from you.
You want to know what you think?
What stood out to you the most?
What are you excited about?
What are your concerns?
All of it.
Your perspective is so valuable because these conversations about the future of sound,
Yeah, about how we're going to experience the world.
they're just getting started, and we need everyone to be a part of them.
So share your thoughts, ask your questions.
And let's keep exploring this sonic frontier together.
Who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one to discover the next big audio innovation.
And when you do, we'll be here, ready to dive deep with you again.
Until next time.
Keep those ears open and those minds curious.